Thank you for listening to the Living Zen-podcast. If you've been listening for a while and are wondering how you can take the next step in developing your own Zen practice, or how you can more formally connect with our community, please explore our online Orientation to Zen practice, which you can find on our website at zenwest.ca. If you enjoy the resources that we make available online, we would very much appreciate your support. There are a number of ways that you can help us continue to do the work we do. One of the best ways is by becoming a part of our community as an associate. Your commitment of $10 a month will ensure that offerings like the Living Zen-podcast, eZendo, and our online Orientation to Zen will continue to be available around the world to everyone with an interest in truly living Zen. To become an associate, please visit our website at zenwest.ca and click on Become an Associate. Many more Zen Talks are available for purchase on iTunes and at Amazon.com. Just search for Venerable Eshu Martin. These talks are also made available for free on our website for all of our members and associates. You may also want to download the Living Zen Podcast app, which makes downloading and listening to the podcast effortless. Thank you for your support, and thank you for listening to Living Zen. So the word that we use for what we're doing when we're engaging in this practice is Zen. And this is an abbreviation of a slightly longer word, Zazen, which is the Japanese transliteration of a Sanskrit word, jhana. This is a word that is often translated as meditation, but if you've ever come here before, you've certainly heard me talk about that this word meditation is a really poor translation of jhana. The word that I like to use to describe what we're doing here is dissolution, or if you like, unification, even melting into. Every activity that we engage in the formal environment, and as our practice deepens more and more, as we go forward into our lives, into our relationships, into our work, if we're to be Zen practitioners, Zen students, then every activity that we engage in should be this investigation, this practice of dissolution. What does that mean? This is important. It means that as we go through our lives, we have this tendency to fixate things. We make objects out of things. We make objects out of people. We make objects out of relationships. We even make objects out of objects. Now this sounds strange, but from the perspective of Buddhism or Zen, there is nothing in this cosmos that we can point to that is solid, fixed, and permanent, an object in the sort of truest sense of the word. Everything, whether it's a stone, a mountain, a tree, a person, is a very dynamic, unfolding activity, a collaboration of many directions coming together at once in a particular time and place. And we ourselves, this I that we like to think of ourselves as, falls into this category as well, a dynamic, unfolding activity. But this is a very difficult thing to grasp. It's a very difficult thing to manifest, to be aware of in our moment-to-moment activity, in our moment-to-moment interaction with this world around us. And so, when we're in our everyday lives, there's a million things going on, a million dynamics taking place. And it's very difficult to remember this simple thing that I am not fixed. I am not solid. I am not separate. I am not something solid, fixed, separate. I am this unfolding, manifesting, dynamic, live activity. The reason that I want to talk about this tonight is because of this form that we engage in. Things are complex in our lives, and we forget. So in order to take up this practice, in order to engage in this remembering that we're an activity, we come here to engage in this practice in a supported, structured environment which is constantly reminding us to break apart, to let go of the object that we formed of ourselves and of our situation and flow into the activity, into the dynamic unfolding cosmos that we are a part of. And it starts the moment that we walk in the door. The first thing that we do when we step into the room is we bring our hands together, palm to palm. Even this gesture is a reminder that we're taking two things which in our mind are separate and we bring them together. I and this room are not two separate things, but as I step into this room, we become one. The activity of bowing is simply lowering this separation, lowering this boundary between inside and outside. This is I'm giving away the family secrets when I talk about this stuff. Every activity that we engage in this room is exactly the same activity. If we walk in the door and after this single bow, we stand up as Tom or Bob or Sally or Mary, the one who is a Christian or a Jew or a Buddhist or a Zen practitioner, then we haven't actually bowed at all. We haven't actually entered the room at all. Our practice is to completely dissolve. From the moment that we enter the room, we engage in this practice of plus and minus, dissolution and arising, death and rebirth. As we enter the room, whatever it is that we're carrying, our studies, our work, our busyness, the list of things that we need to do, the hockey game, the political debate, whatever, drop it. Allow it to fall away at the door. That person, that situation, that experience has died. As we straighten ourselves up from our initial bow, we arise anew, born again, without signs, without marks. We make our way to our seats. This practice allows us the opportunity as we go forward to see the pervasive insistence on this thing that we call a self. Over and over and over again, this form which has been handed down from generation to generation offers us invitation after invitation to enter into the experience of unification. The sound of humming arises. This whole room manifests as the sound of humming. how do we respond? Do we fixate the self? Do we make ourselves stiff and rigid and stay outside, an onlooker, on the outside looking in? Or letting go of our judgments, of our expectations, of our self-concerns, do we allow the sound to arise of its own accord from within and meet this environment, this room as it is? Even as we do this, even if we are able for a moment to let ourselves drop away, let inside and outside drop away, we notice that as we hum, as we dissolve into this hum, this thinking self pops up over and over again throughout the course of our, am I doing it right? How do I sound? Am I too loud? Am I too quiet? Wow, this is really weird. I wonder what so-and-so would think. Boy, I have to tell someone about this after we're done. And our practice is over and over again to let go of that fixating self that stands up. The humming is the easiest part, and then we get into chanting. The chanting of words immediately engages the thinking mind. We do all that we can to break that up. We break these words up into syllables, so my gosh, it's really difficult to string them together into thoughts. But boy, we do a pretty good job. Especially if we've come a few times, we start to be able to think about what's going on. But when we do this, we miss the point of chanting entirely. The invitation comes and we miss it because we're too busy trying to fill this me with knowledge, with understanding, rather than catching the point of this practice of Zazen, which is the experience of unification, to know in our bones our original home. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I came as close as I have in a long time to really tearing a strip off of a monk. I don't do that so much anymore. But I was informed that during the orientations, one of the instructors was telling people, if you don't want to do bows, it's okay. You don't have to do them. Don't do anything that is uncomfortable. And I said, what? How could you tell somebody this? What's the point of engaging in this practice of dissolution if we are encouraging people to remain fixed? If we want to cling to our separate self, this precious identity as this kind of person or as that kind of person, the last place on earth you should come is a zendo. My function as a monk is to turn the heat up in this room to the point where all separation dissolves. One great fondue. Whether we're chanting or whether we're sitting or whether we're walking, we manifest as one. If we're sitting there desperately trying to hold on to this identity, I'm this, I'm that, I like this, I like that, I don't do this, I really like doing that, then the invitation that is offered through this practice is arriving and we are leaving it unanswered. This to me is a very sad thing. This practice, this form, this structure, this community, this teaching, these treasures that are offered through Dharma practice, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in my personal experience, it's the most transformative thing I have ever come across in my life. So when we engage in it in this sort of partial way, when we engage in it half-heartedly, holding ourselves back, withholding ourselves from the complete experience of this breath as we're sitting, of each step as we're walking, the experience of being completely with all of our friends, all of this space, this entire cosmos as the activity of walking. If we're holding ourselves apart from that, looking at it, judging it, assessing it, then we're missing the whole point. We have a treasure in our hands and we don't know it. So each of you, I would like to put words to this invitation. As we engage in this practice together, as you come into this room, as you take your seat, as you raise your voices in chanting, as you lower your bodies in prostration or great bow, observe, wake up, dissolve. Allow the thinking self which holds you separate from the activity that you are engaged in to dissolve. And in your own body, in your own heart, in your own experience, come to know this thing or this activity, this functioning of dissolution. Come to the experience of zero, shunyata, emptiness, our true home. It's been called many things, but these are words for things, and our practice is to awaken to this activity. Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.